The common council meeting was funny yesterday.
Good evening. Welcome to the Franklin Public Schools School Board meeting tonight for June 17th. The meeting has been properly posted. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Yank,
Here.
Mrs. Eckert,
Here.
Mrs. Oh gosh, I am really bad at this right now. Mrs. Sapersky,
Here.
Mr. Sprague,
Here.
Dr. Khan,
Here.
and Dr. Beer is excused.
Thank you. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Community comment? No community comment this evening. Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Mr. Sprague. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Look at our school board calendar. We have graduation this Saturday, the 20th at American Family Field at 4 o'clock. We'll have our 4th of July parade on the 4th of July at 11 o'clock. Our July board meeting is on July 22nd here at the ECC at 6 o'clock. National Night Out is Monday, August 3rd at 5:30. I believe that's in the library parking lot, if I'm not correct. And then our annual meeting of the electors is Wednesday, August 12th at 6 o'clock here at the ECC. And then our August board meeting is also on August 12th at 7 o'clock or as soon as the annual meeting is over. And district administrator update, Dr. Bowman.
All right, so good evening. Andy's not with us this evening, he had a prior commitment. So a couple celebrations going on. We have graduation for the high school class of 2026 this Saturday, 4 o'clock, American Family Field. I looked at weather today. I try not to look at it too far in advance, but it's like mid-70s, 10-mile-an-hour wind. Like I feel like it's going to be quite pleasant for all of us able to attend. We also successfully completed our third day of summer learning. Yes, last week today we were ending the school year. Today we're celebrating 3 days of summer learning. We are at a record number of learners this year with over 1,275, 910 K-8 over at the Forest Park. So it's been great to get the lineup through of drop-off, the buses through. The first day is always a little bit of organized chaos to get them all where they need to go, but then everything's been right on track the last 2 days and moving quickly. This year we have kindergarten readiness also added, so we've had real little ones coming in. 2 full classes. They spend the whole morning just getting ready for kindergarten and gearing up for their first time as full dayers when the fall comes around, or not really fall, August. We have 363 students, 912 at the high school, taking credit recovery classes or getting ahead in some of their other courses. So full-time going on, Ms. Bombian is the principal over at the middle school with our K-8. Austin, our middle school AP, is the principal at the high school for our high school students. So lots of busyness. This will take place for 5 weeks, ending around the middle of July. Another exciting announcement is Diverse Grounds will continue to be open most Tuesdays through the summer. So if you're looking for your coffee jolts, your lemonade, your Rice Krispie treat, your attire, or just the smiley face, they were there yesterday. They're there most of June and July, not the week prior and following the 4th of July, and then they are taking August off to gear up for the school year. And Franklin Forward referendum work, if you've driven by the high school, is obviously there's a lot of walls going up. You're seeing kind of the natatorium take space, the multi-purpose room. You're starting to see the walls of the weight room where some of those windows will go in, so it's pretty exciting. What you don't see unless you're in the building is that the minute students and staff left last Wednesday, C.D. Smith moved in and started demolishing the 4 science classrooms that are being renovated. And it is amazing how much work they've gotten done. So those rooms are completely cleared out. Some of the cinder walls are down, just opening it up to be more airy, be accessible to all, more natural light, not really more airy. Right now it's more airy, windows are out. By August, windows in and more natural light. But newer equipment, furniture, just safety aspects increased, and then obviously the accessibility was the biggest issue in those spaces. Shout out to Andy Daniels and his team. He has his eye on everything. So some of the lockers are being removed to get some of that natural light in and create some smaller workspaces because those have become very popular in getting our students ready for the next phase in life. So when those lockers were removed, he identified that they are the newer lockers than some of our older lockers are original. So him and Mike Volo went around the school, figured out where we're going to remove lockers that are older, put in those new ones, and then we will be reducing just the number of lockers at the high school. As Mike Volo and his team, Aaron, they've all been looking at like what is locker usage really in this day and age, and do we need as many lockers as we have students? So just fun, innovative ways that like every detail is being looked at through the projects. So that's what's been going on in district. Any questions, let me know.
Okay, any questions? Sounds great, thank you.
You know, I have one question is that with the lockers, are the students, because I've heard from some of the students that the locker is too far away from my class, you know, so by the time I go put my stuff, so it kind of, so are the students ever, is there collaboration with the student? Is it okay, with your classes that, so that the locker is close to the first morning period as such, because if it's too far away, I'd kind of, is that the reason that the lockers are not being used that much?
I mean, Aaron's here with us tonight, Aaron Rogers from the high school. Welcome, Aaron. Feel free to step up to the table and a microphone if you have more to give on lockers. They're shifting to requesting lockers, and a lot of kids just aren't even requesting them from what I've gotten out of conversations.
Correct. Yeah, I've surveyed, or we've surveyed students the past couple of years, and it's about 100, probably less than that, use their locker, and we've heard similar things. But also just that they are moving through and doing other things during their passing times rather than going to their lockers. And a lot of students have like an A-day, B-day, so they're able to then carry their things, and some even have 2 backpacks, so they just switch their Chromebook. But that is something like with the limited number of students and having to reassign some because they'll need a new one if they are continuing to use it, of being able to select that locker is an opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Excellent. Okay, school and community engagement reports. I'm just gonna note here that this section has changed now to only being school and community engagement reports. The role of the board liaison is kind of being sunset, so to speak, given that it was kind of setting up an odd dynamic between our administrative team and our board members and kind of crossing some lines there. So we are not going to have individual board liaisons at each school and so we won't have board liaisons in our reports. If you notice that was out in that place, we are going to be having a, like, I don't know, we'll call it like engagement calendar or something, social calendar engagements, that is being created and put together by Darlene that would offer everybody the chance to sign up for any event that you want to go to. So we had some situations where people weren't able to get to their assigned board liaison school, but maybe wanted to go to some other school. So there'll still be opportunity for being present in the community, possibly more opportunities for being present in the community without having specific set times and set schools that you have to go to, that type of thing. So just a clarification on that. Questions? Okay. So any school community engagement reports from the last couple weeks?
The Educational Foundation golf outing was last Friday. It was quite successful. I think around $45,000 was the final number raised. There was close to 150 golfers. It was beautiful weather. It was a great day. So the community and school district got together, and so thanks to Vicky Cordani and Jeff Lancioni and their team. It was a great event. Katie and Mary and I are on the committee, so anyway, it was a great event, and we appreciate everybody that played. I also went to the CISA annual meeting last week and signed up for 1 more year of being on the Board of Control because Brookfield was giving up their spot, and they had 1 year remaining. So I will be on the Board of Control at CISA 1 for 1 year.
Excellent, thank you for doing that.
I attended 8th grade graduation in Forest Park. It was a wonderful event. Great group of kids.
Yep. I heard you had an excellent speech.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
Obviously, yes, I was also at golf, and I think the one thing that I really, I guess, wanted to emphasize was just how many community businesses were really played an integral role in signing up golfers and making donations and offering auction items. And so I just think it speaks to only good things and growth in terms of us really partnering with lots of businesses for mentorships and for support and what have you to our district. And then I can't, it seems like so long that I did this, the house, was that
Oh,
when
yeah,
we
that was,
toured?
yeah.
Okay,
Week
so.
and a half
Oh, yeah, that probably was
Yeah.
within this time period.
So that was cool, going to see if anybody can ever make it to the house that the kids construct. And I didn't even see this until today. There were pictures in, I think, the KYI that showed them doing like the actual work and from the ground up. I had never seen like the in process. So it was a really great house with soft closed doors, which I love. That's all I did.
Mary
was
wants
go-
to move in.
Soft closed doors. And then I did do the CRC, the Community Reintegration Center graduation, and then also did the Southwood Glen Optimists awards to those kids.
Awesome.
I was able to attend the Robinwood Field Day on Tuesday, which was amazing. I also want to give credit to all of the parties that are involved because there was weather that
That whole week.
shifted that every single school, and it sounds like from what I've heard from parents that have kids in the other grade schools that they all went off really well. They were all able to have their field days. So it's very
Stressed to
important.
get there, though.
Very
Wisconsin
important.
weather
In
is.
Wisconsin weather.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually that would be my report from the golf outing is that it was a beautiful day, so beautiful that I'm still in pain a little bit from the sunburn, but that's my own problem. Thanks to everyone for all those things. Okay, reports, presentations, and other school board business. We'll start with Board Policy 5316, Dr. Moe and Dr. Bennon.
All right, so we have a couple policies in front of us tonight, and we have Erin Rogers from the high school with us. You can come up to the table, Erin, again. You
Come on
are
back.
valued guest speaker this evening. So we'll kind of walk through where these policies are at, why one of them was added after the posting on Friday, and kind of how that works. So 5136 is a policy that was already looked at by the Policy Review Committee and approved by the board a few months ago. I think this was in the February batch, but don't quote me on that. Ready to be queued up for this coming school year, starting July 1. So in the last number of months through our principal leadership meetings, we continue to talk about the no-cell bell-to-bell. How's that going in the middle school? How is it going in the high school? What are we seeing? What are trends? Looking at data. So we've had really good discussions. The biggest difference between both buildings being, I should even back up. The great thing about the no-cell bell-to-bell, my opinion, is that our leadership team has come around it on their own last year already and said, we need to change something and do it different. It's not healthy for the social emotional learning of our students. It's interrupting the learning taking place in the classroom. It's a lot of time for student services and admin to manage something that's not really related to the learning going on. It's a lot for classroom educators to be managing, like we're trying to educate and keep high-level learning, and then we're also managing these cell phones. So props to our team for taking that route last summer going into this past school year, because that was ahead of norms that you're now seeing in the state and the nation, and even mandates now at the state level. And you'll see in the board report how many states in the United States have already shifted cell phone usage, thank you, Jess, throughout the United States. So yesterday we had our leadership collaboration meeting, end of year one, which is always a full day. It's a heavy cognitive day, but it's really good discussions. It's always a great day because we have the culmination of data from the year. So the middle school and the high school both brought their data specific to, as you can see in the report, specific to incidents that have to do with technology usage in the building and behavior violations. So technology violations, inciting a fight, and lunchroom altercations are the three big ones that we picked from how we identify our discipline data in Power School. These being the ones that we had seen a bigger spike in discipline last year that led to the administrative team kind of moving in this direction with cell phones. It was pretty remarkable to be able to look at what that difference is between last year to this year. So the data on the screen right now is Forest Park's behaviors. So backing up even a step from that, we went to the discipline matrix a few years ago, right? Because we noticed that we had different docking of data within Power School. And if you have like dirty data in is dirty data out, we always say. If it's not going in with rhyme and reason and protocols, you can't really do much with it coming out when you pull that data. So the behavior matrix gave us a common language across the schools, common way to document, and it's helped a lot with parent conversations to say, yes, there's consequences to choices that we make as we're learning and growing, and they can look at what those steps are. The plus to that is it's given us clean data starting in 23, 24. So you'll start to see some of that. Inciting a fight was not one of those called out areas till we really got the discipline matrix in. So that's why in both data charts, you'll see that we don't have data. But then starting in 24, 25, and now this past school year, we're looking at those tech violations, fights, lunchroom altercations. So for middle school, obviously a drastic drop from 24, 25 at 237 tech violations to 72. And that asterisk below, I think, is what really probably caught the eye of all of us, is reducing the cell phone related from 95% to 2%. The difference between the middle school and the high school, remember, is that middle school was it goes in the yonder pouch when you come in, your phone's on you in your backpack. At the end of the day, you magnet it out, you can get back on your phone. High school, it's out during all class time. Teachers responsible for making sure students get it in their cell hotel, that's what we call them, right? So a space in the classroom that is away from them.
It's usually one of those things to hold shoes,
If you want a good
if
visual.
you want a good visual.
And then they could use them during passing time and at lunch. So that's kind of the difference between the two buildings. So for middle school, inciting a fight, like luckily 19 sounds high, but that's not high for a school at size, but being down to 2 incidents is great. So that's conversations or actions that are leading to a fight or being a part of the sidelines of creating a fight. And then lunchroom altercations dropped at the middle school. When we went to the high school data, just to compare back to back, we didn't see the same drop of tech violations, inciting a fight, or lunchroom altercations. In some cases, we even saw that in all cases, kind of going up. So we weren't seeing the same changes. When we looked at student engagement for the middle school and high school also, you see that middle school had a really nice uptick at the start of the year of student engagement. So we like to believe that that's a lot to do with we're engaging more because our phones are not visible even to us. And there's, if you read the Yonder report and this situation report, they even talk about, I think it was in the Yonder report or maybe a national report, just not even seeing your cell phone, like not even being in front of me, being away, not visible, and then in another room creates even higher academic performance and engagement. When we went to the high school student engagement data, good data also, right? Like they're at being anywhere near 4 is always good, and we attain to even get higher, but you don't see that same spike necessarily in engagement. So in the meeting yesterday, to kind of finalize where are we going for 26, 27, the high school and middle school teams met, talked about this data, and really I'll let Erin talk about it if you're comfortable a bit. She was available tonight, kind of on short notice, so otherwise the rest of the crew would have been here. But talk a little bit about, you know, what your team saw and what the shift is for next year.
Yeah, so thinking about the difference between the middle school and the high school, it's one time of day, you're putting that device away and then it's out of sight for the rest of it and you're going on and you're able to focus on learning and instruction. At the high school, what we're seeing is with students still having that freedom to have it in the hallways, that's all they're doing in the hallways, is a lot of their heads are down. When you're trying to get through those halls, it's really difficult. So that is when some of those inciting of fights or tech violations are happening, is at those times when we thought like it would be okay. We've learned it's having a negative impact on our school culture. And then having teachers have to manage it every class period of the day. And some of those class periods, for example, if they have split lunch, it's twice during that class period. So then it's not only impacting like the distraction that students have because they're able to see it at the front of the room or on the wall, but it's also multiple times that they are having to go up to that cell hotel throughout their day and put it away. So it's kind of the overall impact that we're seeing and the impact on instruction is something that we're not comfortable with. So having the conversation with the middle school and hearing about their experiences with the cell phones being away and some of the heartwarming stories of experiences at lunch that the middle schoolers have been able to have and their growing social skills. One of the engagement points that we look at every year at the high school and in the district, I believe, is that students don't care about each other is essentially what we get out of that data point on the engagement survey. So trying to think around like how can we support that too and teach them the skills to demonstrate care and have eye contact with somebody while you're talking or not sitting at a lunch table and down at your cell phones because we said it was okay to have it then and kind of working through that. So hearing those differences in the experiences kind of led us to like, we can do better and we want to do better and we want to support our students in their well-being and their skills for life outside of school and impacting their instruction to hopefully help them be able to have more instructional minutes. So that's kind of where we got to in the report of the desire for Yonder at the high school.
I think there's some other data in here too. I've mentioned like the amount of states that have moved away from cell phones. So Wisconsin adopted in November of 25, effective July 1 of this year, that you have to adopt a board policy around no cell phone usage during instructional time during the school day. So that also it's great to have as a support to why we're making changes and decisions here, but I think it's also that celebration, like I said earlier, that this was something we're already looking at because we're looking at, like Erin said, well, the impact on student needs, student engagement in learning, educators' engagement in learning, and being able to be focused. And we've spent a lot of time, excuse me, in the last few months also talking about our instructional framework and what the setup looks like in a classroom and how do you launch a class. So how do you greet the students? How do you get ready for the learning in there? How do you inspect what we're coming in knowing and what we're going to start learning that day so they're engaged in the goal setting? Those are all high effect size practices in a classroom. And if you're spending every class period talking about where is your cell phone, is it in the hotel, walking over, checking whose isn't, maybe making a behavior referral because of it, you've taken away from everybody's ability to really launch into the learning of that class. And so that has been a lot of the conversation I've gotten to be a part of and hear the high school have through, like I said, a series of meetings to kind of land at where they're at and what that looks like. I think it's been a really intentional process, which I've appreciated too. Like some schools are going, oh, we can't have it because the state mandated that. And we're not doing, we would do that because we have to, but I think more importantly, we've collected the data, we've looked at it, we've determined where we think it's best supporting students. Mike?
I appreciate the process that you've gone through in getting this, and I really appreciate all the data and seeing this. I mean, I would have supported this anyway, but I'll be supporting this. I think it's just, I'm glad we're leading in this, and I appreciate that.
Anyone else have questions, thoughts?
The only language actually changed in the policy is what Dr. Moe has up on the screen right now. So it's really just replicating what was taking place at elementary, middle is now high school. And then that procedural step is the Yonder vouch.
So, question, it's board policy 5136 and then board policy 5136.01. Can we take care of that in one motion or?
Yeah, we could in one motion. It's, because you're just adopting the language. 5136 exists starting July 1, so we're updating language in it. As presented, 5136.01, the only difference is that we hadn't originally taken that policy when it came through with Neola. Since then, we've learned as IT has been doing their work and investigation and conversation with high school is that we probably have about 10%, I think we said, of the high school population that's bringing their own personal devices to school, computers, iPads, which puts a lot of susceptibility on our system, our IT system and cybersecurity. So it's something that we just need to stop just to keep our system safe. And we supply devices, so there's really no need to bring one. That's what that policy is addressing, .01.
I asked for them to be two separate items because the 5136 was added late. So
Okay.
just to kind of highlight the fact that it was a
Okay,
separate
then.
policy from.
Then you
To make it
prefer
all
that we
one
did
tucked
it,
in.
then
We
you
can
prefer that we
approve
did
them
it as two.
together tonight. I don't care about that part. I wanted it to be highlighted because it was added,
Okay, I
Right,
understand,
so-
thank you.
that's why it was listed kind of separately there. Any other questions about policy? I have a couple, but
Sorry.
go ahead.
So are we gonna, is it gonna be, data collection is gonna be ongoing, so these numbers will continue to pop up for us periodically?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This
We
is our
love data.
regular data collection. Yeah, and it's something we could bring back like this time next year. We can
yeah,
even tie it into
there's a-
coherence plan, really.
Or add it to the coherence plan report in the summer, which is next meeting. You could just add a line so that you have the,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I only have grade school children, so I don't understand. I mean, I know what yonder pouches are, but I read kind of like staff members can unlock them. Is that like, is every teacher capable of unlocking a yonder pouch? Like, has the access to unlock these pouches?
So they are
they look.
kind of like stations. Oh, thank you.
yeah.
So there's stations that go typically on a wall
Okay.
that are placed, and the ones throughout the school building during the day would be locked, and a staff member would go and unlock those at the end of the day. And then the one in the main office, which is the exit students use during the school day, that one would be unlocked for them to be able to do that if they're leaving.
And if they're unlocked, they kind of tap the yonder pouch against them and it opens, for lack of a better. Tap lightly is what we say.
So a question I had about that from a high school perspective versus the middle school. At the middle school, you have everyone leaving out of pretty much one or two doors. At the high school, you have people leaving out of multiple doors because they aren't all just going to get on a bus and going home. Will there be a difference in the system, or will you be forcing the entire high school to go out just one entrance? And that might be more like procedural, not necessarily board level discussion, but just trying to think about this because it's a major shift. I'm just trying to look at a lot of
Yeah,
different
no,
pieces.
the high school team's done a lot of thinking through that. As Aaron was describing, the ones that are in a box are like locked and you can unlock it. So even at the middle school, they have certain people that have the unlock magnets or whatever we want to call them. But then there's additional people that have access to them. So not every teacher has them, to answer your question. It takes kind of that pressure off and there's not a necessity to it. But for the high school and multiple doors leaving, usually on the west side of the building, you could have those boxes in those spots and have different people with keys to access them, and that's what they're working through, where those will be. The other part too, some of them are just big magnets, so if you ever walked in Principal Taylor's office, she's got a bunch of them around the frame of her door. Probably drives Andy Daniels nuts because they have to paint the frame more often, but then you can just go grab it, so people know, like, you grab that and you can hold that magnet. So it's quick, like I think I've shared in a KYI, the middle school gets out in 4 minutes, under 4 minutes with 1,050 students. So it's just process, and that's all things that the high school are looking at already. So no, it won't be focusing on, we're not gonna try to get them all out the front door. Yeah, no.
But there will be one in the main office, so when people are checking out midday or whatever, they'll be,
If you go into Forest Park now, you can see it right on the middle of the counter. It looks like a little dome-type box, for lack of a better description. It's right where you would check out with the secretary, and then they tap it.
I think honestly, at the high school, like, in my mind, it creates even better process because you have students that want to check out early and maybe like try to skip past the office quicker and not go out. Well, you're not gonna want to leave with your packet, with your yonder
no, they're
locked.
locked, yeah.
So you're gonna go through the office and that's gonna help the process, and
Win-win.
it really, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the unintentional
They'll go
win
through the
that will
office
come
now.
from it.
Because that cell phone is their.
Mhm.
Right.
And we've worked with like the police department too, has a magnet, so I think when I asked Principal Taylor a couple months ago, maybe one student had used it, but they do have the ability to go by the police station if they need to get their yonder pouch unlocked.
Oh,
if they have
if you happen to leave
Yeah,
before.
ironically, people don't forget, students don't forget to unlock their yonder pouch.
They certainly
They may
don't do it
forget to
twice.
charge their Chromebook. They haven't tended to forget to unlock their cell phone, so.
Do we have data from Yonder or anybody else about, like, I mean, I know it's been highly successful at the middle school. Do we have any data about high schools that have
Yeah, I think we
implemented
put
this?
This in
or-
here is some high school. This is more academic success. The
Okay,
grade levels on the bottom, so this is some high school data. And in that attached report, you can see, I mean,
yeah. I mean, when you look at the data from our school, the higher enforcement of cell hotels, whatever else, seems to have not impacted. Like, it seems like the numbers went up rather than down. So I'm just wondering, will high school and middle school have the same what's your hypothesis? Will the high school have the same decrease in events by using Yonder?
I don't imagine they're not going to,
Right.
quite honestly, just in, even the anecdotal of being in a middle school cafeteria for a lot of years and being through it again this year and being in high school cafeterias, it's completely different when you walk through the middle school right now when they don't have cell phones. And I think one thing we maybe haven't emphasized enough, and Aaron kind of hit on it too, is that it's the social skill pieces and teaching proper usage that doesn't just happen. So it's not like, here's your Yonder pouch and now we're done and let's go on. Like, there's learning with it. So there's gonna be a high level of engagement with student services. And I don't remember if we put that in the situation report, but that the middle school and high school are already talking about how those student services teams are gonna connect, because that was a big part of the team that carried the learning. Like, if you take something away, it's not basic education, but it is. It's parenting too, right? Like, you have to have a replacement behavior. So if I just take away cell phones at lunch and then I expect that students are just gonna know how to act properly and talk, like, I haven't given them a replacement behavior. I haven't taught them something different. And that took time at the middle school, those
did.
first few weeks, but they still have prompts on the screen. They still have games to play, but now it doesn't take any prompting. Like, they're engaging. Even being at the dance after promotion, they had cell phones because cell phone Yonder pouches were collected on Monday. So they had a full day without them. And it was, so full Tuesday was without Yonder pouches. And if you talk to anybody in the student services or administrative office at Forest Park, they were like, wow, I am really glad that we went with the Yonder pouches. And I was really reminded in one day's time how
Of
much
why.
time we spent on like maintenance operational pieces. And then when you fast forward to the dance after the promotion ceremony on Wednesday, the students had their phones, but you saw kids taking pictures. And then I saw maybe 3 students that were sitting just watching a video on it. They were dancing, they were doing stuff. And I can tell you from being in prior years, it wasn't that as engaged in the actual activity. So I think, yes, I do feel like you're gonna see those improvements. And I think Aaron could talk about like how much is like this on a device at lunch versus just engaging.
Well, and
you
that was
know?
one of my questions, because I know I was really impressed with what they did at middle school. Is that the plan? Will you be that intentional and very focused with, like, you're in a cafeteria now here with, the prompts that were up and the cards and, different things like that on the, like, really actively engaging? And yeah, I guess that was just kind of my,
Yeah, with
That
that,
was the
we've
plan.
started discussions around what's the high school level appropriate version
Mhm.
of those activities.
Right.
You know, like some of those pieces really work well for middle schoolers, and some of those, if we say to our seniors,
Go play
"Here's-
checkers.
then some will be excited
Mhm.
about it, but others, we might need other things. So we're trying to think about what are those
what are
appropriate
those
things.
pieces?
And I think to speak to your question around the data, we've improved in our consistency and our practices and procedures throughout the building
Mhm.
in this process as well. So I think you're seeing that in the data as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Maksud.
So,
I'll stop for a minute.
maybe I'm talking about 4 years ago, the kids, for some subjects, were scanning, the teachers were requesting to scan the QR code and all that stuff for participation in the classrooms and all that, especially for the high school I'm talking about. So has that been already been kind of removed, that kind of a learning approach, so that there is no use of cell phone device for the scan of the QR codes?
We have had very few requests this year from teachers for cell phone uses in their classes, and they have found other ways to do those same activities, but without having devices. And they've spoken to, and now kids are talking to each other because they don't have that in front of their faces. So
Thank you.
it's been a positive shift.
In the report, it says, like, there's really no budget impact. I'm wondering about the few classes where kids would have used their phones, like an art class taking pictures. Will they be able to use their phones to take the pictures, or is there gonna be a need for buying more equipment, and is that like a budgetary impact? Or, I know I have music kids who use their phones as tuners, like, will we be buying tuners for the music department? And I'm assuming, I don't know, but other classes like that, would they be able to use their phones in that situation, or are we buying things, and how does that impact our budget?
Yeah, I think those are pieces that we're figuring out as we go through the procedures as well, of like what are things that we need and how can we make it work, and continuing to work with Mr. Cromie on how to figure those pieces out as we get there. But I think there are times when we use them and we've relied on them, but are there other things that we have access to already that we don't need to buy something new?
And there's some learning from like middle school music and things like that, like what have they used for tuning, and we'll be able to share those concepts too with the high school.
And I
Art
think,
department, we've thought a lot about, right, there's digital pieces, but in talking with the high school team, like there's a good amount of resources that Franklin has that we probably just have to get better about dispersing, and if we have to add a few items, then we'll budget for those items, like that expense for the amount of learning time we're gonna gain back by not managing cell phones is a fair equation for us in our mind, right? Like we'll find those budget dollars, and that's not gonna be something major that breaks a budget. So we'll look at it that way.
Katie, do you have another question?
I do recall when they were introduced, that one of the biggest like concerns of parents were, how is my kid going to reach me? Through the year, like, or, you know, did you get any data, or did that concern come to fruition, or were children still able to reach their parents if they needed to, and how were they gonna do that? And then, you know, how are we gonna implement that with the high school as well?
I can answer that one only because I looked through every parent. There was a Google Doc, if you remember, and parents could submit their questions or submit their concerns when he rolled out. And I, just today, before we worked on this, I went back and reread every one from the middle school. Some parents were just saying, my kid doesn't have a phone, don't give him a yonder pouch. So took those out. So we had several parents that said, we don't need a pouch, don't need a phone. I'm gonna opt to have my kid keep their phone home. So that hasn't come up, but we had some parents that just said, nope, we're not even gonna send it, their choice. But the other things that came up were, how do I reach my kid? The answer for that is that location services still work. So sometimes parents said, I'm at work in the morning, when my child gets on the bus, I wanna know that they made it to school safely, and I track their location. So you can silence it in the pouch, and that location service still works, so you can see your kid's dot at school. That took another big bucket of parents off, because that was the biggest concern, was, right, my kid's responsible for themselves, I'm at work, I wanna know. So once they knew they could track, and then the next group was, I wanna text my kid messages about where to go after school, and we just had to retrain that you'll have to take care of that in the morning, but that kids can always use the office phone whenever they need it. I think we went down to 2 kids where we scheduled a check-in, where they would come to the middle school office during lunch to do a check-in for parent with via a old-fashioned phone, right? The office phone to, and whatever family situation was happening that they needed a midday check-in, and we just accommodated that. But I went back and counted, and it was 2. And then there is the one thing that students who keep their cell phones, some manage diabetes and sugar with the cell phones. So if that is a accommodation in a student's health plan, then those students keep those devices or have an alternate device or keep it in the office. So we do have just a handful of kids where now blood sugar stuff is all on their phone, so that they manage that through the health room. So those are the things. And I don't know if those 2 kids would keep it, but we did have, I remember 2 that to start the school year, we did something a little different because their family was transitioning through something where the parent needed a check-in, for lack of a better word, or they needed to have a conversation in the middle of the day. Sorry, go ahead. But it was funny, I was like, I just read every line, because I was like, I want to be sure, because I think that's a fair question, like to anticipate now with more kids. I think that was a very fair parent question on, I'm not at work, or I'm at work in the morning, I need the peace of mind that my kid arrives safely.
I also suspect this is the time to do it, because the incoming freshmen will have gone through this rule this year, and there may be some growing pains at the start of the year, but then it will just be the way it is.
They may teach the seniors how to play games. Because I was at the middle school and they were playing games for a visit, and it was fantastic to see. So they may school those seniors.
That's true.
It'll be great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? What, I'm just gonna, for the sake of community watching the video, what is the communication plan? Like, how are we rolling this out to families? Because
Sure.
Seems
Erin, you
like
can
it would
talk
be-
about that. You guys have been busy with that plan.
Yeah, we've been drafting things. So tomorrow we will share with our staff kind of an update on it, and then Friday we'll introduce it to students and families.
And I think there's a FAQ also that you created to link in there, similar to what Dr. Mo talked about, so that high school parents who may have different questions can submit them, and then we work through them. It's kind of a practice of the team anyways, like, okay. And then that becomes the FAQ, so something to point to later.
Yeah, the middle school went through each one. Each administrator said, you know, talk to parent on blah, blah, blah date. Here's the plan. So every single one was rectified or addressed for whatever reason.
And one last question, in case of any emergency, if the family wants to reach the students, basically they call the office and then the staff office facilitates this phone conversation with the parents and the students, am I right?
They can, yes.
Do we know how much that happened, just ballpark wise, at the middle school in terms of like an increase of people needing the office? And I'm just thinking like at the high school, like, did that impact our office staff work you know, like
Not that I
workload, so to
heard,
speak?
I can remember, be honest with you, it's easy to say now, being really worried about it when it started, and then I never heard again.
Yeah, it
Right,
never
like
came
that was
up,
one
so
of the
I'm
things we
assuming
sat
little
here and
impact.
were like, well, what?
Right,
We're
are we
gonna have
get
800 calls
right,
every
are we gonna
hour.
get 30 calls a day now, and then
We-
the office
We
staff
did not
is-
at the middle school.
Okay.
But I think there was a transition period, right? Like parents had to relearn to make those arrangements. The other thing that I think complements that is we're trying to back away from, if you're on a bus route, you stay on a bus route. If you're Monday and Wednesday, you get dropped off at grandma's, Tuesday and Thursday, you get like telling parents like you can't change whether your kid gets on the bus or goes a different place after school every day. So there had to be some education with parents, like make a schedule, start that in the morning, stay consistent. So some of that was adult learning, I would say in hindsight, like if you, that's increases anxiety for your kid to come down and call every day if you say, well, I'll decide at 2 o'clock how you're getting home.
Right.
Back that conversation up and send your child to school to say, you know, remember you're taking the bus today and going to grandma's or whatever the situation is. So there was some relearning, I think for adults probably.
I actually have one more. Because I have the younger ones. Gizmo watches are really popular, which that's like straight to, is that just like not prohibited or?
So it's, yeah, that's a great question, because I was just meeting with a principal today for elementary, and they're like, we don't have phone issues, because it's no devices,
Right.
right? Not just cell phones.
Yeah.
We tend to say cell phones, but it's any personal communication wireless device. And that is more what's at the elementary, and it's, well, we understand you have it for the same reason, like your student may be getting on, your child may be getting on the bus on their own in the morning, and you want to know they're at school. For most cases, that's really all they're being used for. If it's not distracting and parents aren't calling during the day, we're not making them take it off, but principals are using it on a case by case. If there's, you know, she said there's one parent that would call the watch to talk to their student, or the student would call from the bathroom to say they're not feeling well. And so then they just address it with that family. But
Okay.
yeah, well aware and we're gonna queue up communication too, like as we end of July, we're usually doing, maybe a little earlier in July this year, doing our communications back to families of gearing up for the year. This will be one of those things that will be called out specifically there. And then what that looks like at each level, elementary will be, so watches are
Right.
the bigger thing there. Secondary cell phones are clearly the item.
Okay, I'm done.
Gizmos, we couldn't think of the name of it today, now I know, Gizmo.
Gizmos.
Gizmo.
Anyone else? Appreciate the discussion. Okay. Do we want to do both pieces of this policy at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
I already wrote
So-
it down.
Okay, thank you. So looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
The motion was made by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motions pass for both
Thank you.
policy updates.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Ooh, oh, no.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, maybe stay around for a little bit.
I
longer.
know, it's hard getting these guys to stay.
You don't say anything exciting.
Got an umbrella in my car.
Yeah, me too.
Moving on, our next item here is our student family handbook for information from Dr. Mo. Thank you.
So our new student family handbook, the reason why we're bringing it to you today is it will be included for parents in back to school online check-in, which opens at the end of the month. So you're getting a chance to see it in its draft form. The reason why it is in draft form is anything in green is something that's either local language or that we brought over from a previous edition of a student family handbook. Anything not in green is direct language from Neola based on policy. So obviously there's a lot more policies than you see here, but these are the things that we're legally required to notify parents of in handbooks and have them sign off. So obviously when we give it to parents, we won't have the green shading. I'll go back in and make it all uniform, but after playing around with format, that was the easiest way in my mind for you guys to see what is new and what is old and what are we bringing over. Some things of note, one, there's one handbook for everybody. We used to have an elementary, a middle, and a high, and some of it was redundant, some of it wasn't. It just did not seem to make much sense when those policies are driving anything or driving things K-12. And I also, in hindsight, having read the handbook many, many times through making it, I guess if I'm an elementary parent, I guess I wouldn't mind seeing what happens at the high school. Like, I think an unintended consequence might be that you're kind of learning about all of Franklin, not just that very narrow focus. So we just thought it would be easier to update. So each year when policies change, just like Neola gives us new policies, each year they update the handbooks and show changes that have to be in there. So for instance, you'll see the grooming law is now in the handbook because that just went into policy. So then it gets added to handbooks and just kind of trickles down. The other thing that you'll see when you all do back to school online check-in, for those of you that still have kids in school, is that we've pulled some things out of handbook that are now separate sign-off. So for instance, we used to get permission for acceptable use of technology, for instance, by just having people acknowledge the handbook and then putting that in the handbook. The legal advice has been for some things that we really need to pull out things that need to be what we would call an active sign-off, not a passive sign-off. So yes, the acceptable use policy for technology is still in our handbook, but you'll see it's also pulled out as a separate sign-off on back to school online check-in so that we can easily track and understand who signed off, who hasn't, who gets devices. So that might look a little different. I think this should be easier to read, easier to understand. It's kind of, having lived in these handbooks for a while, I'm like, oh, Neola, I wouldn't have organized it in that order. But trying to get past that and realize we now have full faith that everything that needs to be in there by policy is in there and organized and applies to the different levels. So that's what you'll see. I'm happy to answer questions. I think some of it is self-explanatory. It did get very long. But I don't know of a way around that either. So, I know especially we added, for instance, all the assessments that we do with copies of the questions and what they are, right? Those all used to be a separate communication to parents that we pushed out. So it was also an attempt to say, nope, we're just going to refer you back to the handbook. If you want to know the questions in Sabres, here they are. Click on them. So some of it was just organizational system-wide too. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Anyone?
Is there an index? Did I just miss it? Like if I just want to hit this policy, I can go to this page?
The quickest way to do that would be like Control F and search for the word, but there is not an index, nor is it in, like to my point about Neola, I would have put this in alphabetical order by section and trying not to get, what Neola did, their hindsight is the really important stuff they pulled out and put at the beginning, to be honest with you. So you see Title IX right in there in the front. I would imagine that is purposeful, knowing that that's a policy, no offense to parents, but you're probably reading more carefully on page 1 than you are on page 75, if I'm really being honest. So Neola did it almost like order of importance-esque, like the things that have to be front and center, that's where they are. So the quickest way, Mary, what I do is if you do Control F and type in the words you're looking for, that's how I find it. If this format works, we'll take feedback from parents. An index is something that I thought of, we could put it in next year. Like we can do whatever we want within reason with Neola, so if that's something we needed to do, we could.
Could you move Southwood Glen?
I know, I was like, it's driving me nuts.
Really bothering me.
It's supposed to be on one page, someone must have hit a
know.
space. Yes,
Can
so
we
that
put
will be
the
fixed.
Franklin Community on their own page?
This is supposed to be moved up, so these should be on one page. It got pushed down, so yes. Yeah. 100%, as soon as I PDF'd it and posted it, I was like, oh man. But yes, that will be fixed. Much agreed.
Other questions? My question, given that it is so long and it is new and different, goes to my previous question from before about a communication plan. When we push this out, is there going to be some kind of very targeted communication of like, pay attention, this is new, and please read it because you are, like, once you sign off on it, you are responsible for everything in it? I don't know.
We're having a back-to-school online check-in communication for lack of, and mostly detailing directory data is a separate sign-off, acceptable use policy is a separate sign-off. So including the handbook as new will be embedded. So we have several things that will look different about back-to-school online check-in, and we'll add a line in there. I mean, we try every year to say, please read, but to your point, it's a different format. Please read through carefully and understand all the pieces in there.
I just, think as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that sometimes you really are not reading as well on 75 as you were on maybe 1 or 2, or maybe you don't read it at all, you just sign off on it. And I mean, there's a lot, as we know, there's a lot in here that you are accepting and saying, I believe in. I just think it's a good idea to.
And with handbook sign-offs, parent has to sign off and student electronically, so there's fields for both in back-to-school online check-in for electronic signature. So it's really the parent's responsibility to make sure their student reads it. Also parents, but that's twofold. But yes, we'll put that in the reminder. We're looking at the end of the month if everything goes as planned on the back end and we need to push a reminder. It's gonna be a finite window for back-to-school online check-in this year versus it's just kind of open all the time. We're gonna try to, with the early start to the school year, really make sure we get everybody in there and doing it within that 3-week window, a little less.
Go ahead, Mary.
Just because this is kind of top of mind, given recent, what we saw out at the track, or the park with their AED, is that what it is?
Yep.
I mean, would we ever think, hey, just so you know, we have these devices, just as more of a reassurance. Are they at the high school only, or do they have them at the middle school?
AEDs.
And elementary,
Yeah, they're all-
every building.
Oh, okay. I mean, it would, I guess, maybe be reassuring to have that in there. Obviously, it's probably too late. Is it too late to
No.
change things? No.
We can add a line that's I'm in the health section right now, but that we're equipped to do that.
Oh, okay. I was just reading this one little thing. Okay.
Yep, that's easy, right? Just letting people know that. I think that probably is peace of mind. That's why we bring it, like, for parents to know. But yes, they're in every school, and there's a whole little schedule that you have to check them and make sure it makes a sound when you open the box. Yeah, so you have to check those. The custodians check those and sign off.
Any other questions, comments? Things, I know this was a quick turnaround for you, so thanks for getting it all organized and ready for us. Moving on, the treasurer's report is available in the board docs library. Future agenda items, we will have our coherence plan end of the year report, our Ed for Employment first read, our health clinic update, Neola Board Policy Act 89, and our sponsorship guide review and dedication guide review at upcoming meetings. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sprague, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we are adjourned at 6:53.